Let's make some introductions first.
Okay.
Kristian,
yes.
Kristian Stanfill. Yeah. You're part of Passion City Church and
right.
the worship movement that goes along with that.
Yeah, that's right.
And how long have you been doing that?
Started in 2005. It was the first time I ever was a part of leading at Passion. I led a community group in Nashville, Tennessee. And been a part of it, so I guess almost 10 years.
And now you're 31, so you 31. Were like in your 20s
Oh
when
my
you started.
goodness, so 10 years ago, what was that, 20?
Wow.
Yeah, well, I thought maybe 21, yeah.
And next to you is Brad, and he's a youth pastor, right, at the Passion Church?
Yes, sir. I'm student pastor at Passion City. I've been around for about 6 years. I was traveling with our pastor, Louis Giglio, for the last few years, and then been pastoring the church also at the same time.
That's awesome. Were you with Louis in Florida for the Operation Christmas Child, that big event?
You know, I actually didn't make that trip. That was one of the ones I couldn't make.
I shared that conference with him, and it was just a wonderful time, and what he had to share was just epic.
I heard it was really amazing and powerful.
Okay, so Brad, next to you is Brett. And Brett, what do you do?
Yes, so I work alongside these guys. I help lead worship in the student ministry in our church, and then I've actually known Kristian since we were 14, and so I'm one of the worship leaders and songwriters at church. So
that's great. Yeah. So you were kind of grew up in church together, is that it? Really?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I guess you were, what, 8th grade?
8th grade, yeah.
I was 9th grade, just in 9th grade.
So you guys are like church rats. All of you kind of grew up in church, right?
You might say that. Yeah. You might say that. Brett and I were the first band that either of us ever played in. Really, we were together. But Brett actually played drums, and so we played it. First songs we wrote together. So there's a lot of history.
Yeah. What was the name of the band?
We don't need to talk about that.
Now we want to know.
I'll feed you some
Okay.
No, listen. For anyone starting out there, there was a lot of room for growth when we first started. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so from there, you're part now of a movement. I was going to say a trend, but really as a movement. Hopefully it's not a trend. Hopefully this is something that the Lord's doing and building on. Yeah. But it's a passion movement that people know nationally and internationally. Tell us a little bit about that and what it's like to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, it's phenomenal to be a part of it and to see it. It started back in '97. In Texas. Louis and Shelley Giglio had this vision to see college students all over the world really live for the glory of God. And that was the vision, and it really, that's kind of the same. It is the same as it, right here today. And it's incredible for us, to see, even earlier this year, 2014, to see Phillips Arena in Atlanta full of college students, and then in Houston, Texas, the Toyota Center full of college students, all just coming to worship God and seek Him, pray for this generation, pray for their campuses. And it's a really powerful thing to watch. It's a powerful thing to be a part of.
Yeah. We're fairly new to the Passion Movement, considering that Louis and Shelley started in '97. But they really, at the time they started it, there was not a lot of college ministry happening. Mm-hmm. And they really love being able to stand at the crossroads, because all the college students, they're at a crossroads, and they've got the chance to go one way or the other for the rest of their life. And we believe we can meet them right there. And if we can inspire them and encourage them to live their life for what matters most, then it could change the trajectory of their lives. Yeah. And I know you guys have a great college ministry going here at the University of New Mexico, Lobo Theater, and we love that. We love just being able to raise the banner of, hey, college students there's a huge opportunity to influence them.
Sure.
Because they got their whole life in front of them.
Right.
If you can catch them there, it could change the world.
Right. Yeah. I remember just from my own youth, I was part of a church movement that really was a youth movement. And we had a pastor who wanted the youth to take the lead. And it was always, come on, you do it, you go for it. And it seems like the Lord has just sort of recreated something fresh and new with this. And so you kind of, Kristian, started from the beginning, right? Would it be from the beginning that you kind of got in on it?
No, so I guess...
How'd you hear about it?
So, well, we heard about, actually, Brett and I were leading worship in middle school and high school together. And we started hearing these rumblings of this passion crew, this passion movement that was happening. And so we started listening to the songs, and we actually started leading passion songs in middle school and high school in our youth ministry.
Were you in Nashville at the time?
No, we were in Atlanta.
You were in Atlanta.
Yeah. And so we had already been tracking with the movement. And I think what would happen is I had a friend tell me about this passion music. And so I ended up buying this CD full of these songs. And I just remember putting it on, even as a 15-year-old kid, 16-year-old kid, just sensing the presence of God, just feeling the power of God coming through these songs. I had never heard anything like it. And so I just thought, man, there's something about this group of people and their faith and the heart of this thing. And at 15, 16, you want to grab onto something that's real and authentic. And I think it cut through all, like what Brad was saying, all that stuff, that life stuff you deal with as a teenager. It cut through all of that and said, hey, Jesus is here. His love for you is real, and his plan for you is bigger than you can imagine. And so that's really what struck me. Started tracking with it there.
I want to ask you guys, what was different to you when you heard it that attracted you? What was there? Because you said there was something there, and I'm just trying to probe a little deeper. What, if you were to put your finger on it, what was it that you weren't experiencing up to that point?
Yeah, I think, just along with these guys, yes, the music was awesome and it sounded really great. And I think at the core of Passion, like what Brad was saying, is that we want to live our lives for what matters most, and to know that, I love how our pastor Louis says this, that we can trade our small story and step into God's big, grand story of living for his glory. And so just as like a teenager and a college student, growing up, going to the conferences, you're going, man, I want my life to matter. Mm-hmm. I want my life to count for something that's way bigger than me.
That's good.
And so I think for me, and I think these guys would say something really similar, that, man, I don't want to live just for my world, my fame, but I want to leverage everything that I am for the fame of Jesus. Yeah.
Well put. That's great. Anything to add to that?
Man, I don't want to follow that. That was so good.
Well, Christianity in America among college students isn't like a bright story. I mean, it never has been. Typically, you'll hear the stories of kids going to church, they drop off the deep end in college, and yet the Passion movement is filled with college students, college-age students. You talk about filling arenas, etc. Yeah. Tell us about what's going on in college in general versus what's happening that you're seeing what the Lord's doing among college students. Can you compare those two?
Well, I mean, it is real, the struggle for college students to not throw away their faith when they get to college, if they've been raised in church. The struggle, we have our students, you have your students, and I'm just hoping and praying when they step onto that college campus, they don't just chunk it and throw it all away. Mm-hmm. And that there are people leaving the church, but that's not the only story, because we have seen thousands and thousands and thousands of college students rising up, filling arenas, saying, we believe in Jesus. And we might not show up at the church every Sunday because for whatever reason, maybe the churches aren't noticing them, paying attention to them, speaking to them. But we know that there's, millions of college students around the world that follow Jesus and they want to live for him. And so a few of the events that we've done recently, we were at Passion 2014. We had two events, one in Atlanta where the Atlanta Hawks play, one where in the Toyota Center in Houston where the Houston Rockets play. I tell you what, we call it the 360 moment, Pastor Skip, because when you're standing on the floor and you get to turn around and and they may come because they know Louis or Christian or our other worship leaders, Brett, Chris Tomlin, David Crowder, or some of the speakers that have been a part of our movement since the beginning, John Piper's at most of our national gatherings, Francis Chan, that might have gotten them in the room, but the power is that 360 moment when they're like, I'm not alone. There's other people my age that are living for Jesus. And we've seen that, and that's what we want in every single gathering that we have, for them to get their eyes off the stage, but to get their eyes on Jesus, but also see their generation, because that will change somebody's life.
So Brad, paint the picture a little bit for us. 360 moment, an auditorium full. How many are we talking about? What does that look like?
Every gathering's different. I mean, we had 20,000 at these two events. The year before that,
20,000 each?
Each, yeah. The year before that, we had the chance to be in the Georgia Dome where the Falcons play. Probably the largest collegiate gathering of Christians ever. That's the most that we've ever heard of. There were 60,000 college students in one arena for 4 days, waiting on God, listening to God. And then, it's just mind-blowing. But we've also done smaller gatherings. We did a world tour. It's my first involvement with Passion, 2008. We went to 17 different cities around the world. We had one in Kampala, Uganda, 20,000 college students. That 360 moment was powerful.
Really?
We went straight from there to Paris, 900 to 1,000 students, but it was massive for them.
Sure.
Because they did not know 900 college students follow Jesus in their city.
In the country.
And so that 360 moment was just as powerful for them. So it's not necessarily about the numbers. It is, But it's not. It's just a.
So do you sort of highlight that in those events? Do you say, take a minute and look around, get this moment, this 360 moment? You kind of define it for them?
Absolutely.
That's great.
And that's really the heart. We believe God's given us the platform to gather. And there's just power when people are coming from different streams, different denominations, different churches, but they can come together and say, it's about one name.
That's right.
It's about Jesus.
That's right.
And that's really what we feel like. What
all
God's
the other
called us to do.
names, all the titles, all the denominations, who cares? At that point, in that event, you get a taste of heaven, do you not?
Absolutely. And that's what college students are looking for. They're not into the denominations. They're not into, they probably don't even know, honestly, a lot of the different theologies in the church, but they just are looking for something real. Mm-hmm. And they're not looking for division. They're looking for unity around the name of Jesus. Mm-hmm.
So have things been birthed from these events? Because I know there's fruit that comes from this, whether it's projects, albums, other worship teams. You talk about international events. Just talk about some of the things that happen after events. What has this movement been birthing?
Well, one of you guys got to take that. I've been talking way too long.
Well, I think, like Brad is saying, a lot of these people, or a lot of these students that come to Passion, they see something that's undeniable, and they're changed by just being in the presence of God, and they see something of God that maybe they hadn't seen before, and it lights them up. Yeah. It lights them up. And, you look at all these 20,000 students, and you got to think they're all going back to some place,
Right.
They're all going back to a campus, they're all going back to a church, they all have,
and they'll never be satisfied again.
Right, exactly,
Right.
And so they're taking this thing now that's just lit up inside of them, and they're going back to all, and it's one of my favorite moments of the whole conference is watching the arena is empty for the last time, and just knowing all these students are getting back in a car, they're getting on a plane, they're flying back to a campus, and they're taking this fire that's been lit inside of them. And we hear stories all throughout the year of students who take it on themselves to go, I want my campus to see what I've seen. And so, it could be, smaller things. Maybe you guys have heard stories, but I hear so many stories of even just students taking even just smaller gatherings on their campuses, just saying, I've got to rally people, and people have got to see what I've seen. And it's a beautiful thing to watch, yeah.
One of the other things, Pastor Skip, is, God's given us a platform for worship music around the world, but that's not the only form of worship. And so we've really tried to raise the flag that their worship and justice go together. So God wants our songs, but He also wants us to sing on the way of helping the people that are hurting, that are needy, when He wants the people of God to be advocates for justice in this world.
Right. Love mercy, do justly, or do justice, walk humbly with God.
So these last few years, we've really rallied our movement and our gatherings around the 27 million women, children, men that are stuck in human trafficking around the world. And we've tried to say, God's given you, college students, a voice. So it's time to raise your voice for the voiceless, for the people that are around the world that are stuck. And so going out of every gathering, we always want to champion worship. And that's songs, that's corporate, but that's also walking it out and bringing justice to the world. A couple of our gatherings at the Georgia Dome, we saw college students raise over $3 million at each of them on the spot. Not, I'll pay later, not commitment cards, cash.
Yeah.
College students produce $3 million at an event. That should be headline news.
In 4 days, and every single penny went to different justice causes fighting human slavery around the world.
That's headline news. That's fruit.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's great. No, I like what you said about, you see them empty, they have to go back to their church, but it's sort of like, once you've tasted steak and lobster dinner, it's hard to go back to a TV dinner, or just noodles, ramen, So that's great because it births a spark of fires in them, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I think that's the thing, we've definitely got these, big things where, yes, songs, travel from the conference and these justice things, but even down on the individual level where, I've known of, I think I'm a product of what God's done through these conferences and through this movement, but then, the way there are businesses that are started, people go into, yes, there are pastors that are raised up, there's worship leaders who catch a vision of Jesus and all that, but then the way people lead families ultimately is different, the way they lead businesses are different. I know a guy in Greenville, South Carolina, who started a business based on what God did in his life at the Passion Conference, and the way he conducts his business, is a way that he wants to reflect the glory and the fame of Jesus, you know. So it's pretty cool.
So you guys have raised the bar significantly as far as worship songs that are sung on our landscape. And so many people sing passion worship. How do you guys sing it every night or so often every week and keep it fresh and meaningful to your own lives?
Well, so we're on this tour right now, the Take It All tour. This is night 6, we're here, of 25, as we were talking about that earlier. And I have people ask me that all the time. I don't know about you guys, but they say, how does it stay fresh to you guys every night? And for me, personally, it's different people every night. And different people fill the room every night. And so it's different stories, that's different seasons of life, that's different circumstances of life. And so you look out at the people and I see not just another audience, but I see a whole new set of lives in the room, you know, and a whole new set of stories. And so these songs take on different shapes every single night, and certain moments start to rise up, whereas maybe the night before, it's a different moment, you know, that people latch onto, but on this night it's this. And so you see, it's just a really beautiful, and we see that at church, you know, every Sunday. You know, every Sunday we meet, you could say, well, it's just another Sunday. You know, a lot of these songs we've sung before, but the truth is that God's doing something fresh right there in that moment. And so what I pray for us, for me, as we lead, is that our eyes are open to that. And we say, God, open my eyes to see how you're moving here right now in this moment.
Okay, so you guys are all in ministry. Do you ever come to an event like this, or do you ever come to church or leading your groups and just say, I'm just not into it. I just do not feel into it.
That's never happened to me. Never happened.
Does that happen to you? That's really weird.
What's that?
Does that happen to you? That's
no,
really weird.
There's a real joy. I mean, I love doing what I do, but you know.
I'm kidding. We're kidding. We're totally joking.
So tell me what it's like.
I mean, I think for sure, pastors, ministers, there's a desire in our hearts, but also expectation. We just keep pouring out. If we're not careful, if we're not intentional, we're not being refueled and renewed. And that's really, you gotta work hard at that, because I know I have the tendency to pour out a lot. And, I think for us, we try to remember, our pastor said this a couple weeks ago, one of our leader trainings. He's like, I'm not always feeling it. And I'm not always walking in the door to 10. But then I remember that Jesus is alive and that he was raised from the dead. And so surely I can maybe my circumstances aren't great. Maybe my day's not going great, but Jesus is alive, and that's always going to be worth giving, pouring yourself out for and getting fired up about. But we're actually trying to learn from you on that, because we're not the ones to speak, on the expert.
Another really important part of that is just being real with people. With all of us here, there's amazing accountability with us. We're great friends apart from being on tour together. We lead at church together, but
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's two of my best friends, and our families know each other, and we all do life together. And so it's really easy for me. If I need to, I can come to Brad and say, Brad, today I'm tired. My voice hurts. My body hurts.
I miss my
family. And he goes, man, he's like, I'm right there with you, and I'm praying for you, and I'm behind you all the way. And I also know that our whole team back home in Atlanta knows where we are, knows what we're doing, and we get texts every day from people that saying, hey, I know you're in Albuquerque tonight, praying for you, God is with you, the power of God is on you guys tonight. And just seeing that on my phone blows me up. Just go, yeah, this is going to be a great night. And so it's good to have a family and community.
So when you go back home to your family, your church family, do you give them updates of what's happened this last week?
For sure.
That's awesome.
And we are getting texts. I mean, how was Phoenix last night? Louis, Shelley, hey, what went down? What was great about it? And that really is not a passion thing. That's a church thing. Yeah. And that's what y'all have going here. And that's what's possible for everybody that's going to be listening to this.
You never feel disconnected. You're a family traveling as a family, but you have a bigger family back home.
That's right.
It's the power of the body of Christ.
One big value that we have is like when we gather together, whether it's before we pray, before we're gathering at church, or whether it's our student team is meeting or whatever, but we love to just share stories of what Jesus is doing. And so, like, whether it's us traveling and coming, out here to New Mexico and kind of sharing what Jesus is doing, or if it's there's a really cool story of a guy who brought his friend that he met at a van store to church, and he gave his life to Jesus. And I mean, when he shared that story with us in like our little circle praying before a gathering, man, all of our faith just went sky high. And so that's a big thing that we love to do just at church. It just really frames what's happening every single week, you know.
Okay, so here's a question. What's next for you guys? Or what do you see, what do you want to see next? Is there a next?
Well, I think right now, we've talked about the tour. We have Passion 2015 happening, so we'll be in Atlanta twice, at Phillips Arena twice, and then again at Houston in the Toyota Center. And so we're looking ahead toward that. You know, past tonight, we have church on Sunday, and the Sunday after that, and the Sunday after that, and so we're always looking ahead for that. But, you know, for us creatively, we're always writing, we're always dreaming, and really listening. You know, and Louis, you know, Pastor Louis always talks about, he just want to raise the sail up, you know, and just, when the wind blows, I want to catch that wind. And so that's why we call it a movement. You know, it's not a monument, it's a movement. And so we're always dreaming, we're always listening, and wherever God takes us, we'll go.
So talk to a college-age kid or a high school kid or whatever, somebody young who's just, they're sort of planning their life, they have desires or they want to be educated in a certain area, and they've been raised in a church, and this, you know, sounds pretty interesting what you guys are a part of, but just kind of speak into that life.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is me. I mean, one, I would really encourage college students and young people to be honest with themselves and remember that, yes, they have their whole life in front of them, but it's a short life. It's a brief life, and we all get one shot at it.
Good.
And that's humbling, you know, when you get that perspective. That's Psalm 90, right? God, the psalmist says, teach us to number our days so that we can gain a heart of wisdom. That's really hard for a 20-year-old to do because they think they're, you know, invincible. But when we realize that our days are numbered and our time on this earth is short, and we got one shot at it, and we can either choose to live for everything in this world that's going to fade. That's what the scripture says. That's what you see, you know, prove true in everybody's life. Everybody dies, and you know, whatever they amass here stays here. Whatever they send ahead goes to heaven. But you can live for the temporary, or you can live for what will last forever. And if you objectively look at it, my one brief life, I want to choose what will last forever. I want to live for the glory, the fame, the name of God, because His name is going to endure. That's Isaiah 26:8. We want His name and His renown to be the desire of our souls. That renown is the enduring fame of God. Nobody else in this world has enduring fame. No celebrity, no brand, nothing we see on Instagram, nothing, no job, no company. Just one name that's going to endure. And for us, I think also a thing that college students struggle with is, and Brett mentioned this earlier, do I go the pastor route? Or do I go the full-time missionary route? Or is that what the super spiritual people do? And I don't know if I'm ready for that. Or I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a mom. I want to be an investment banker. And thankfully, God says, you know, in His Word, Colossians 3, do whatever you do. He didn't say you only can do certain things. He said, whatever you do, pick something. Go for it. What's in your heart?
That's right.
What are you dreaming about? Go. And He said, but whatever you do it for the glory of God. And that's really, in a nutshell, what Passion's all about, is trying to say that to young people.
That's good. You must be a preacher. That was really well said.
He's the preacher of the three of us.
So, in a nutshell, you're saying invest your life into something that will outlast it.
That's
right?
good.
That's good.
I'm going to use that.
Write that down.
Anything you would want to add to that? Because you guys are still, how old are you?
I'm 30.
You're 30, 31?
33
Ooh,
on Monday.
You're the old guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the average age in your church? What's the average age in these events?
At church, it's pretty varied. You have younger college students come in, then you have young families, but you also have, upwards of 15.
So it's like any church, right? A vibrant cross section. Yeah. But at the events now, is it predominantly young?
It's college students. It's for 18 to 25-year-olds.
Fun.
Oh, it's on fire. Yeah. On fire.
That's great.
And what we love, we have what we call door holders at our events. And they would be our volunteers. Yeah. But Psalm 84, we'd rather be a door holder than in the house of God than dwell in the tents of the wicked. So if you're over 25, you get to come as a door holder. And there's nothing better than holding the door open, because our hope is that these people over 25 would say, I've been in the presence of God. I've experienced His goodness, and so I want to hold the door open for this younger generation to come in and experience what God has for them.
That's a calling. That's a life's calling.
Absolutely.
We'd love to have you as a door holder.
I'd do it.
Come on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm 26 now, so I think I could do it.
Totally. Yeah, you're riding that prime door holder age. Yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks. We've had a great interview with 3 great guys from the Passion Movement, and we're so glad you're with us at this fellowship, that you came to Albuquerque, but that you joined me here today. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.